exposing the hate and exploring the love. This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
Okay, hey there listeners, a big warm welcome from Glasgow Underground News Network. My name's Kev, I'm better known for my work over on YouTube as TruthTube451. I'm joined tonight by my co-host Kip, and what a show we have lined up for the listeners here tonight. This is going to be an absolute orgy of information. We are joined by the magnificent Freeman from freemantv.com. Please head over there and check out Freeman's website. So before we hand over to Freeman, Kip, how are you doing, my man?
Well, I'm still trying to get to grips with speaking to the great man himself. I need to say, he started me off on my journey with his chat with synchronicity, and I think one of the most important things he said was to realise that a lot of people out there were, well, not a lot of people, sorry, most people are good people. And it just changed it. I had a more positive outlook, and it started me doing stuff like this. So I'm definitely excited to. Well, Kev, me and you both know, we've talked about it before the show and whatnot. We're both excited to go on this wee journey tonight because I've listened to a lot of Freeman stuff. No two shows are the same, and he goes in 1,001 different directions, and each one of them are as amazing as the last. So.
Well, it wasn't that long ago that me and you would have been sitting down just now, pen and paper in hand, getting ready to listen to the great man. But just a quick bio before we actually introduce Freeman. Freeman's an internationally known, award-winning TV producer, filmmaker, radio talk show host and lecturer. Freeman is considered an expert in the fields of the occult, trauma-based mind control, government conspiracy and ancient civilizations. Freeman graduated with an Associates of Arts with honours in interdisciplinary studies and attended Kansas University, specialising in ancient and environmental architecture. Jamie, his lovely wife, also studies the occult, activities, secret societies, magic, Hollywood, trauma-based mind control, and so much more. So Freeman, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you onto the show, man. How are you doing?
Hey, it's great here to be with you guys here on GUNN.
It's absolutely magnificent to have you here. Myself and Kip, like Kip was saying, we've listened to you for a long time now, so this is kind of surreal actually getting to talk to you, man. So what have you been up to lately? What's going on over on Freeman TV?
Oh, Lord. We have been trying to develop a new television show. I'm trying to create tools to be able to share this esoteric information with your friends, you know, for the skeptics. And you know, on one level, I'm really trying to create something that's fun, which is kind of crazy when you're talking about things like trauma-based mind control and secret Illuminati rituals and high-profile rituals and such, you know. But at the same time, trying to dig as deep as we can into the data to understand what is meant by a Satanist or what is meant by a Luciferian and what the purpose of magic is. So, you know, so often we've gotten these levels of information and usually from Christian patriots, and you're left with this one answer saying, well, it was Satan. And we've always wanted to go deeper than that there was more to this. And so I think we've been showing that. And so now we want to take all our knowledge and make tools. So I've been sitting around, conducting with my friends. I've got guys editing and working away. Chris is in the audience right now. Actually, he's working on our new intro, and we've got the Maniac Agenda doing music, got Dan Fogler and Kathy O'Brien involved. We're talking with Roseanne. You know, I'm really trying to make it something that is popular, that is something that people can use and utilize and enjoy. So be on the lookout for that. You'll get all the announcements at freemantv.com. Meanwhile, Jamie's sitting back with her Satanist handbooks, getting out Weird Stuff Part 2. And this is getting deeper and darker into the belly of the beast. And really, it's the Weird Stuff Part 2 is getting into the ideas of, are you a Satanist? How many satanic belief systems do you hold in your heart without even knowing it? And I think you'll be surprised at how well we are programmed into the concepts of Satanism. And so Weird Stuff Part 2, she's just, you know, she's in her hole with her heavy books and her deep thoughts. And it's, you know, it's just a work pit here for us, man, you know?
Yeah, it's non-stop, Freeman. And just you mentioning the Satan side of things there, that kind of cast my mind back to a show you were on just recently with Clyde Lewis. Now, I think you actually came out in that show and you basically said that you now believe there's a satanic agenda upon the earth. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about that?
Certainly. And I did try to amend that statement saying that I think that, you know, religion is simply polarity and that there was more to this answer. But Clyde was emphatic in the fact that he had gotten me to state that I did believe there was a satanic agenda. So he stuck with that. Like you were saying in the intro, you know, I am a person that has gone out and met hundreds of thousands, if not, I don't know, you know, 1 million people maybe, in my lifetime, just definitely hundreds of thousands of people. And I find them all to be good, loving, caring, nurturing beings. I mean, every single one of them has stood strong as good people. And this was the majority. And so as a researcher, I'm one of the few people in this business that has actually spent a lot of time with fellow human beings. And so I see that this is at the heart of the solution and where we're going and such. But as I look to what the social engineering is doing, and I see just consistent satanic symbolism that is unrecognized by the layman. So if it were blatant Satanism, say like Lady Gaga or Keisha or, 666 energy drink, Ozzy Osbourne, things of this nature, then, you know, I would say that was a part of the show. I would say this is all just their show. But what I've done is adapted the study of Kabbalism, this ancient Hebrew mysticism that I know is practiced within the secret societies, that Freemasonry is Kabbalism. And I've applied this knowledge to what the signs and symbols that I see. And I'm able to constantly find satanic references to the point of VVVs, equaling 666 in Hebrew, or FO and X equaling 666 in English. And these type of signs and symbols that I see consistently are not plain to the layman. So it's not like they're trying to make it an overt satanic agenda, right? But there is an overt satanic agenda as well. So as you start to recognize all of this, then you say, okay, these people are using satanic symbolism to represent themselves. And this is above and beyond the satanic programming coming through the media itself. And so I can't deny that they are intentionally invoking satanic symbolism into their artworks and into their corporate logos and into the system. But at the same time, I'm not a religious person that believes in this Jesus-Satan paradigm. Every religion has been manipulated for the authorities from day one. And every culture and civilization throughout time has believed it was the apocalypse. So it's, I'm not ready. I'm more willing to believe that the stories of Albert Pike, who was the Grand Sovereign Commander of Freemasonry when it was brought about in America. He rewrote all the rituals. He used a Eliphas Levi. Now, Eliphas Levi is that character that drew the Baphomet, the goat-headed hermaphroditic god that everybody equates to Satan. This was drawn by Eliphas Levi, who Albert Pike was a huge fanatic of, and he then integrated all of these concepts into Freemasonry, rewriting all the rites and rituals so that people were really bred into Luciferianism. And what he had done is he said, we're going to outline 3 world wars. Now, this document has never been authenticated. It's so you can take it as you will. The people that want to be skeptical can just throw it to the side, but the ones that want to know and how these guys think and how they believe can also believe it, because it was supposedly a letter he wrote to Mazzini, who was the head of the mafia. And in this, he outlined 3 world wars, even speaking of the Nazis, or speaking of the National Socialist Party before they were ever created, right? And then in the World War III, dictating the idea of having the Muslims fight with the Catholics, the Christians fighting with the atheists, and everyone destroying themselves, the nihilists fighting with them all, to leave only the Luciferian religion when they were done. Now, in this way, I can see why so much overtly satanic programming would be coming out. Lady Gaga up on the VMA Awards, doing blood sacrifices on American Idol. This latest Miley Cyrus and her Kali invocation. These type of satanic gestures that they are putting out to the world, this would absolutely invoke a Christian wrath or a Catholic wrath and start this turmoil that Albert Pike had outlined back in the 1700s. So I would see the forward satanic agenda as a complete farce, as an attempt to cause factions and fighting, as much as starting racial strife. This is religious strife, But then the undercurrent of these satanic symbols then really intrigues me, because I know that they're not obvious to anyone but those that study it.
Well, Freeman, I agree with you 100% on the fact that it's not so one-dimensional in this idea that it's good and bad, like or good versus evil, as George W. Bush liked to brand it. But like yourself, my dad was a Mason, so I grew up knowing that Masons didn't all sit around campfires sacrificing babies. So when I was introduced to a lot of the information about Masons and what people were saying and the Mason conspiracy and so on and so forth, I knew it not to be completely true, because I knew Masons who were normal individuals, good, loving family people, like you say. And it's like it's not so black and white either, because I would consider the practices of the Catholic Church to be satanic. But right. I don't consider the people who go to the Catholic Church satanic, because I'm not insulting people who go to that church believing that they're sort of participating in some sort of a worship of Christ, when I feel that they're participating in some complete anti-Christ worship. But it just sort of goes on. That's what makes me sort of agree with the point. It's not as easy to go, well, this is good, that is bad, this is black, this is white, and Masons are good, Masons are bad. It's so much more complicated than that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting puzzle, and we so often sit back going, God, are we right? I mean, is this really going on? Like, as you start to get deep into the heart of trauma-based mind control and the dark occultists and what they're up to, you just sit back and go, God, I mean, really? But at the same time, when you look to our leaders, and it's funny because Josef Mengele, the angel of death of the Nazis, he stated that the more we do to you, the less you believe we're doing it to you. And I think that has been more true lately, with our last 4 presidencies. It's been crazy. Well, just, you think about, the Clintons. Now, Hillary Clinton's maid came forward saying that Hillary was a witch, that she was practicing rituals, that she had crack pipes and sex toys on her Christmas tree because she still remembered what Christmas was about, and that there were other reports saying that you had to either get out of the hallway or look to your feet when Hillary walked by. And we definitely know that she put a big booty goddess outside of the Oval Office when Clinton was in office. We've got videotape of Bill Clinton in a seeming trauma-based mind control state. That's in my Anna Nicole video. And then then you move on, right? Hillary the witch, seriously evil. And we go to the Bushes, and you've got what seems to be a pretty clear connection of Barbara Bush with Aleister Crowley. And I mean, when you compare the pictures of Barbara Bush with Aleister Crowley, you really can see the familiar relationship there. And then, of course, you've got the Bushes going off doing all their high rituals at Bohemian Grove, burning baby effigies. You said that? Burning baby effigies to, the stone owl at Bohemian Grove. Then you move on to the Obamas. And beyond all the things that I've said about Obama representing the Antichrist and, yes, we can be, and thank you, Satan, beyond all of that, we have clear stories of Michelle's mother, Barack's mother-in-law, practicing Santeria, and he's like, get that voodoo out of my White House, right? And these are our last 3 presidencies, all overshadowed by witchcraft, in the open, stated, copied in the news, and yet, we still like to think that life's just normal and going on. Like,
I think it was all downhill for the States when they first elected Ronald Reagan, and they were probably the first country that openly had an actor as the president.
Yeah. And what did he do? He starts running around the UN and in different high school arenas saying, well, wouldn't it be great if extraterrestrials attacked our planet? Wouldn't we then unify as one people? And
then
he wouldn't let that go, man. They tried to shut him up so many times, and he would not let that go.
He was independent until a point, and then I can remember seeing, it was after he'd been shot, and he's standing on a podium, and he's saying a speech, and there's somebody literally standing behind him, more or less with a big stick, poking him, telling him what to say, and it was like an open mic that was caught, and you knew who was in charge from that point after, I think, after he'd been shot.
He openly had his handler out on the stage with him on that occasion, I think, Kip.
They had a really hard time controlling Ronnie, man. He was too dumb, I think. He's like innocent.
Well, Freeman, most of the ones you talked about there, Clinton, the Bushes, everyone else now, I've looked at the kind of research that's out there on the internet, the genealogy of these people. Is it right that they are all interrelated? And is that traceable back to some bloodline from maybe Babylon times, Sumeria?
Well, they promote this, right? Now, if we're to believe and understand that only 5 corporations control every bit of media that we ever get, then when we start to see articles in People or in Us magazine showing these bloodline connections, boasting of it, and we've got Hillary related to like Madonna and Celine Dion. We have Britney related to McCain. We have all of these, everyone related to George W. Bush in all these different ways. And, you can see these in my talks or in the magazines themselves. But, they're boasting about it. But then they show you in the little corner of it that they've all stemmed from Vlad the Impaler. Right? Dracula. They all stem from Count Dracula. And so you've got that kind of connection going back. Absolutely, this is a Babylonian brotherhood, though, and this whole system would go back to that ancient land and how this all runs.
I mean, you mentioned Count Dracula there, and it's even Prince Charles. I think you'll remember this, Kip. Just recently in the British media, he's spending a lot of our taxpayers' money on actually renovating that castle. I think him and Camilla are going to move out there. I can't think of a more apt place for those parasites to move to, in all honesty.
And another thing people should check out as well, I don't know if a lot of people have seen it, but Prince Charles admitting that he is related to Vlad the Impaler, and it was on a BBC thing about a garden in Transylvania, funnily enough, and he just let it slip out. Now, you will find it on YouTube easy enough, like Prince Charles admitting he's Prince Dracula, related to Prince Dracula or something. You'll find it, and it's the words out his own mouth. I mean, he doesn't even lie about it.
Well, his own father, he's quoted as saying he wants to come back as a virus. That's the mindset of these people. I mean, is that part of the satanic agenda that's coming out in them, Freeman, or is that just pure evil?
Well, both. That's really where they're heading as they start to move and progress into their future. What's interesting is that they have consistently believed in immortality. And I've felt that they perhaps know immortals, something that allows them to believe so strongly in this. And a lot of what we see is this technological advancements towards immortality. So if you were the elite and you had the ability to live forever, to be able to transfer your soul into another body or to just, regenerate or whichever way that this will go, then you would start to set up this mass destructive system. Now, the two ways that I'm looking at it, one is that they have knowledge from the ancient past of cyclical catastrophes, because we have so much evidence of that. So now we've got the big fear of Planet X, and then also the show that seems to be going on, the one that I've been tracking for so long, the concept of this idea that was laid out supposedly by Werner von Braun, saying that there would be the Red Scare, terrorism, asteroids, and then aliens. All of this due to weaponized space to fight off interdimensional beings. Well, as we've been following this puzzle, I've been following it for most of my career now, and tracking these incoming fireballs that are causing sonic booms and earthquakes, and the relationship from the scientists saying that there are no rocks, that they can't figure out what's causing these fireballs, that there haven't been incoming meteors. And then just last month, they shut down what's called the space fence. And this was a satellite array around the planet that was tracking these incoming fireballs. They announced prior to this that incoming fireballs would be classified as secret. And this caused quite an uproar in the astronomical societies. And I tracked this all in my Space War News. So all of a sudden they've classified as these fireballs were coming in and being so anomalous, and then classifying them as secret. And now, months down the road, maybe it's been a year or two, they have now shut down the space fence. And what do you see all over the news? I get these reports, and I see it on the front page of Truth Frequency as well. But incoming fireballs that are causing these massive, sonic booms again. So, is this a blue beam type scenario where they're actually manufacturing these fireballs and making it appear as if it's Armageddon, or is this actually due to an incoming lost body in our solar system? Is Planet X real? NASA did track Planet X way back in the day. They called it the Nemesis Project, sometimes Wormwood, but they had determined that it might be a binary star and not another planet. So we're in this position now where we're watching the elite prepare. They're building large seed vaults in Norway. They're getting their astute class submarines, the largest submarines in the world, ready. They're getting their deep underground bases going. Kevlar roof on Denver International Airport. So if you knew that this was the case, that there was this massive catastrophe, but you were also on the verge of immortality, but you see the whole setup is organizing the meta programming. If you don't have control of the meta programming, then you're lost. You see, if you start to ask people what their perfect world would be, you would see they would still be trapped in the meta programming. They'd be telling you, well, the perfect world, I would have this job, and I would make this amount of money. And you're like, whoa, so in your perfect world, you still have jobs and money, you know? And that is the meta programming, you know, that overshadows. So it doesn't matter how many times we create factions and try to upset the system as long as the meta programming is in play. So everything that these elite are doing is in order to establish the future meta programming so that they control the world's mind.
And the meta programming, in my opinion anyway, probably starts from preschool age in kindergarten, when they get a hold of the children then and start implanting beliefs and mindsets into them. And it's
kindergarten
really,
comes from the German Nazis. Yeah, it's
well, a lot of that obviously transferred over with Project Paperclip, which is something you can probably talk to the listeners about after the break, Freeman. We're about a minute out from break just now. Talk about diving down the rabbit hole, Kip. What do you make of all this so far, man?
Oh, amazing. So, as always, it's a million and one things we've spoke about, and a million and one things we can continue with after the break as well, Kev.
Definitely. And when you were talking there, Freeman, about the fireballs and things like that, just this week again, listening to Clyde Lewis, he went to do a show, and there was constant telephone calls into the show about fireballs in the sky over Texas. Then last night we had reported sightings over Ohio. There's mixed reports that one might even have touched down and set a house on fire. So we're definitely seeing a pickup of space activity, so to speak. And with Comet ISON making its way in as well, it's certainly a field day for all the conspiracy theories, isn't it?
We can even touch on a wee bit of Freeman's theories about the space wars.
Definitely, man. This is me lining up for the next section.
He's been touched on that over the Russian meteorite that recently happened, man. So.
Well, we're just going to be going out to break in a minute, so remember to stay tuned. Straight after this, Chris Everard will be on. Then after that, it'll be the magnificent Chris Gio and Cherie. Check out truthfrequencyradio.com. Some great stories, some great articles there. Share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, get the word out, and join us straight after the break.
Alrighty, welcome back to GUNN Glasgow Underground News Network, live on truthfrequency.com. My name is Kip. You'll find me over on YouTube as Kip1883, Freedom News Hub 2.0. As always, my co-host is Kev. You'll find his stuff over on YouTube under TruthTube451. And a wee bit different this week on the show. We've got an amazing guest in the way of Freeman. You'll find his stuff over on Freeman.tv. And Kev, you're back with me, my friend?
I certainly am, and like yourself, just enjoying this. At times I'm sitting here and I have to pinch myself and remind myself I'm not just a listener. But yeah, Freeman's got some absolutely brilliant info. Dives straight down the rabbit hole, deep, just the way. That's why I like Freeman's work. But Kip, I know you've got a few things you want to raise with Freeman, such as Russell Brand, stuff like that. So I'm going to let you take it away this time, man, okay?
Russell Brand hadn't even came on my radar yet, but just following on what Freeman was saying before the break there, I loved hearing these theories on how they were using the Norwegian Spyro and the Hydrogen Collider, or whatever it's called, and they were using that to sort of try and transfer their consciousness to other parts of other dimensions or other solar systems or something. Freeman, I believe your theory was.
Yeah, did you guys get a chance to see Aliens from Hell?
I haven't had a chance to see that yet, Freeman. I have not. I heard you talking about it, but I haven't had a chance to see that.
All right, I'll send you passes.
Thanks a lot, man.
Make sure that you get to see that, because that is the crux of my latest presentation, Aliens from Hell, that I gave at Conspiracy Con. And, you know, I was the only person that was talking about such technologies when we were covering the Cloud of Care, and it was launched from Wallops Flight Facility here in America, which was to launch an aluminum oxide cloud up into the upper atmosphere at about the height of the International Space Station, or about 180 miles up in the atmosphere, and launch this aluminum oxide cloud. Now, I watched and had the live launch on my website. I like to do that whenever something's coming up, you know, they're launching to the moon, doing whatever, like they just recently did. I put that up in my Space War News so you can come there and watch the launch live, know what's going on. And the Cloud of Care we followed the whole launch on my website, and then it came out on the news. And when the news broadcast about this, they said, well, we have no idea what's going on. We've checked with all of our authorities, and no one knows what's going on. I'm like, damn, you should just go to freemantv.com. You'd know what was going on, And they blamed it on aliens. They left the news bit saying, well, maybe it was aliens, because it looked like this massive portal had opened up in the sky. And this was over America. This was before the Norway spiral. So as I'm covering this, I'm getting deep into the asteroid sense of this and the alien sense of this. And as I start to cover this, all of a sudden, I'm making a joke about, I wonder what Benjamin Funes would think of this. Now, he was the Jesuit astronomer that was working with the Pope, head of the astronomy in the Vatican, and he had come out and said that he would baptize E.T. And I was making a joke about it, and at that same moment as I made a joke about it, they announced, oh my God, Benjamin Funes is now going to work with CERN. I'm just thinking, oh my God, this is too much. I was blown away. You can see it in my article that I'm just like, this is too much right here. So let me put these pieces together. So then you've got, after this, the Norway spiral occurs. And everyone's flipping out. It looks like a massive vortex opening in the sky, like somebody had taken some sort of Photoshop and twisted the sky in it. But it was real. And this, of course, was occurring over Norway the morning that Barack Obama was coming to receive his Nobel Peace Prize. So, of course, the news was saying aliens welcome Obama to Norway. But yet we had this whole thing about a rocket launch off a Russian submarine that, let out another aluminum oxide cloud. We had the scientists looking at this saying, yes, it's aluminum oxide. Look, it's blue. The reason it was blue is because aluminum oxide's the base element of sapphire. Well, this all occurred over what is known as the ISCAT antenna array, which is the HARP of Norway. Now, ISCAT, HARP, even the Deep Space Guide Wave antenna array, the VLF array in Australia. I'm sure there's one in China that I don't know the name of. They've got Sura in Russia. All of these are capable of interplanetary, intersolar system communications. So they finally announced on the day that they closed HARP, which was a few months ago, that they had used HARP to look at the moon. And I knew this was what was going on when they bombed the moon. I was saying, look, they bombed the moon needlessly because it had already been bombed by China, and yet here they, or Japan, and yet here they are bombing the moon again. They want to see inside the moon. Then we had the Marsis program that went and orbited the moon of Mars, Phobos, which has, a great mystique because every satellite ever launched to Phobos has been lost. And they said they had to put the satellite in silent running so they would not be able to show you pictures of the monolith on Phobos, right? And this is just the news, guys. And once again, they announced that they were using tomography, which all of these HARP, ISCAT, and all of these are capable of tomography, which is penetration of the surface using ultra-low frequency sound waves. So they can actually see inside of these things. So when they bombed the moon, they turned HARP on it. This is my assumption. And were able to see inside the moon, just like you would see on Jurassic Park when they hit the ground and they can see the dinosaur bones under the ground. Same thing. Strike the moon, it rings out like a gong, hit it with HARP, you can see inside. Now they did this with Phobos, and they announced, Phobos is hollow. Now, Phobos is a huge mystery, not to mention the monolith that Buzz Aldrin, 33rd degree Freemason Buzz Aldrin, who put the flag on the Supreme Council on the moon, Open Tranquility Freemasonic Lodge on the moon, is running around all over the place talking about this monolith that either aliens or God put on this moon. Okay, so all of this ties in. I wanted to just prove that they use these technologies in space. HARP is not simply an atmospheric medium. It can go to distant planets. And so they used ISCAT, the one that was under the Norway spiral. So when the Norway spiral happened, it was different than the cloud of care because it had that crazy spiral going on. And I think that was due to the pulsing from the antenna array, the iSCAT antenna array. Well, they used iSCAT to send a Doritos commercial to Ursa Major, and this distant star, sending Doritos commercials over there. And then they used, in America, they used the Deep Space Waveguide, which is another massive antenna array in Cape Canaveral, to send the day the Earth stood still to Alpha Centauri. Now, if you follow extraterrestrial historical content, if you will, Alpha Centauri is believed to be the closest inhabited solar system to our own. Now, if we were going to select any movie to send to an alien race, would it be Keanu Reeves in The Day the Earth Stood Still, telling the aliens that humans are so warlike and violent that you better send a giant robot here to destroy us all with nanotechnology because there's no other hope for your planet? Would that be the movie you selected to send off to the, and the crazy part about it was that it took 4 years for the movie to get from Earth to Alpha Centauri, which made it arrive on Alpha Centauri December 21st, 2012. Okay, so now you've got all of these technologies and take them. I'm just going to combine them real fast for you to give you the idea. So now you have a computer at CERN capable of mind transfer technologies, or what they're calling soul transfer, the ability to send yourself from inside your body to another body, being a robot or a clone or whatever. You can transmit your soul into this if you have the proper computing power, which CERN does. Now CERN is doubling up with these Jesuit astronomers from the Vatican, and they're talking about baptizing ET, right? Meanwhile, CERN's corporate logo is 666 with a hyperdimensional portal. So now you've got this mind transfer technology that's capable of traveling on these radio frequency waves. Then you have these portals of aluminum oxide or sapphire portals opening up in the sky, being pulsed by these things. And we're looking at the potential of transmitting data, even like the Day the Earth Stood Still movie or your soul, into another dimension using these technologies. And that's, above and beyond sending it to another planet.
But you're not also saying that there was some sort of a test robot up in the International Space Station as well, Freeman?
Absolutely, Robonaut 2. Now, you gotta wonder, okay, they just took $6 billion out of the food stamp market. They are trimming the fat here in America and all over the world, I imagine, as we are in some absolute major economic crash. I mean, it's not talked about, but everybody I know is flat broke. Everyone that I try to get support the show, they're like, well, I would, when I'm broke. And I'm like, well, yeah, we're all broke. Are we all broke? And yet, they're pulling money out of the food stamps, but yet we can spend $19 billion to start sending supplies up to the International Space Station. Now, why is it that this is at a premium when life on Earth isn't? And I didn't know if we were coming on a break, but so the International Space Station and now the Chinese military space station that's set up are out there seeking immortality again. So what has occurred on the very last space shuttle mission? They launched up the 16 stem cells projects to seek immortality for astronauts, to find a way to make these stem cells generate life and regenerate life. And that is the sole purpose that, as stated by NASA. There have been 19 of these stem cell projects going up to the International Space Station. Meanwhile, they have their Robonaut 2. Now, Robonaut 2 was brought together by General Motors and DARPA and was sent up to the International Space Station without any legs. I think they don't want a Cylon revolution going on, so they made sure he couldn't run away, right? But Robonaut 2, or R2 as he is known, is a telepresence robot. That means he is capable of mind transfer technologies. That means a person on the ground could be manipulating Robonaut 2 as if they were in that body. And they powered them up. They got this all going. And so now we have telepresence robots and immortality projects going on the International Space Station. Meanwhile, we're setting up all of the ground-based systems, and everybody is currently competing for that $19 billion contract to be the ones to launch the supplies to the space station. You have Orbital Sciences, who looks like they're in the lead. And then we have Elon Musk's SpaceX. And, in keeping true to their form, as the Large Hadron Collider at CERN is named Atlas, who is the king of Atlantis, as our space shuttle titles were the Columbia Endeavor for the discovery of Atlantis. Elon Musk is launching his Falcon vehicles, which is Horus, upon his using Merlin engines, getting back to the Magic and, Dragon spacecraft. It's the symbolism is always consistent. Okay, and then finally on the International Space Station is a device that was placed there in conjunction with the Vatican. And this is what gave me the clue that they were using this for interdimensional communications or even investigations, if you will. Is the alpha magnetic spectrometer. I know, crazy. But they launched up this alpha magnetic spectrometer, the AMS, to the International Space Station. And it has the capabilities of seeing into the other dimension. And the device, the antimatter annihilation detector that's on this thing that can actually witness the alternate dimension, the corporation that put this on there is called Grawlator, and their corporate logo is a reptilian claw. And it just goes on and on like this as you start to discover what our future is heading towards and where the money's going. It's just truly bizarre.
Well, Freeman, you mentioned they're peering into other dimensions, and that certainly makes me think of the television show Fringe. They obviously had an alternate universe running parallel to our own here. Now, I think some of the symbology in that as well that you've looked at, there's a 666 in there with their symbols and everything else. But also at the same time, we've got the X-37B flying about up there, up in space. What do you think that's up there for, Freeman, first of all? And with this other dimensions, with them hiding it in plain view on the television, do you think that's basically what we're seeing half the time? They like to hide it in plain view and show us what is going on, but dress it up as drama.
Well, Kev, can I just put in as well, like, me and you both said that this was only a couple of days ago that Sky News just casually dropped into the news cycle that they discovered alien life was constantly dropping to Earth as well, and I just can't believe there's been not more of a song and dance about it.
I know, to hear about transpermia, basically, transpermia theory on British mainstream news, it was like a absolute revolution in the media over here, wasn't it, Kip? To hear that sort of thing talked about. But I think a part of that, I don't know if Freeman would agree, is I think the dinosaur media realise that they have to actually start putting out some truth, some knowledge, and not all this disinfo propaganda all the time. I don't know what you think about that, Freeman.
Yeah, it's always what they leave out, and that's the hard part. That you have to dig deep. You have to research. You can't just go on what the internet says or what Wikipedia says. You really have to dig deep because it's what they leave out that's critical. Absolutely, it's being programmed and brought straight to us, and the alien agenda is now being legitimized as they have all these alien ambassadors, the United States or the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs and the UN's Linda Rothschild as their alien ambassador, and the Royal Society coming together saying that this is all real. Of course, the Vatican astronomers and their connections with CERN, and now, they're Jesuits, and now our Pope's a Jesuit, so I expect that to kind of play into this whole situation with the extraterrestrial quote-unquote invasion. But they are definitely going to start legitimizing it, and they have been setting the seed all along. As we look back to the television show Stargate, they say at the credits, we greatly acknowledge the cooperation of the United States Space Force. And of course, Stargate was all based out of Cheyenne Mountain. They were all wearing the U.S. Space Command seal before this is 97, before anyone knew, that there was a United States Space Force. something that I have been tracking for quite some time. And of course, Ray Mabus would be the one that would be in charge of the Space Force at this time. So there is a United States Space Force, and they were acknowledged in '97 on the creation of Stargate, giving us a clear indication that they were showing us something real. And, the whole concept of this wormhole technology transmissions through, that's the only way you're ever going to have interstellar travel, really. This type of rocketry to another solar system, never going to happen, right? Unless you got clone and transfer over and over until you finally get there. But the idea of wormholes absolutely plays into this in a huge, huge way. And here they were portraying the ancient Egyptian gods as these controllers of this wormhole, that they had these, entities that lived inside of them and created the Goa'uld and as these habitats for these parasites that, so all of that story was right there. And then not to mention that each of the characters in the Stargate SG-1 series were representations of the Obama administration, as I show you in Aliens from Hell and in some of my other presentations. They are nearly exact. I mean, it's bizarre. And we're talking about 1997 compared to, 2008, before anyone knew any of this. So now we're looking at, well, damn, are they remote viewing and time traveling? So, this puzzle is huge. So Fringe, of course, they also, got deep into this concept of this alternate dimension and even altered timelines, as one of the characters had to deal with both. And, we are dealing with that at the same time. Now, what I find most curious is the symbolism. And so within this, Fringe and on their alternate dimension, the Fringe symbol is FF. Which would, in English, gematria, English, number magic, you would see that FF would be 66 or 6 and 6. And I have been covered this since, early 2004, somewhere around there. I've been talking about this W, the 66 symbolism and how it relates to the Kabbalistic idea of the abyss, the place where the beast lives. And I am consistently finding the 66 and the FF and the VV, all of these equaling 66, all of these going to the abyss. And this plays also a huge role in my Aliens from Hell talk. So, yeah, they are promoting programming and setting it all up in our minds through this media. Lately, I've been watching Alias, which is actually a Disney production, but no one knows that because it's under their other corporate title, Touchstone. And so Alias, of course, has been telling me all about Echelon and the use of ancient technologies in our future to create the Armageddon script. And all of this is coming out in this Disney Touchstone production, Alias. And I've just been so intrigued by it. I've been getting through the whole series to try and sort that all out. So take that to right now, and yeah, we have this X-37B out orbiting our planet. They've managed to push it twice its limit. Like, it's only supposed to stay up in atmosphere, I think it was 1 month, or maybe it was 3, and they're keeping it out there for 6. This is the third test of the robotic space plane, and this is again a telepresence robot. This space plane that is flying around does not have anybody in it. And when it first launched on this third attempt, this third launch of the X-37B, there was a mysterious explosion in space that was filmed by an amateur astronomer. And I wondered if this had anything to do with the secret project of the X-37B, this super secret space shuttle, because then, lo and behold, if all of a sudden we didn't start getting this rainfall of fireballs, including that one that hit Russia, that, of course, doesn't seem to have ever come in contact with the ground, but again, causing sonic booms and earthquakes and freaking everybody out, and of course taking out all the windows and even shoving furniture with the sonic boom. So is the X-37B up there causing this mysterious influx of space debris?
Is it possibly up there playing its part in Project Bluebeam? Sorry, I was actually too busy listening to you there, Freeman. I was absolutely engrossed listening to what was going on. But yeah,
I try to shut up every once in a while.
The X-37B is something that's always interested me, definitely since the first time I heard you talking about it. Just basically, what purpose is it doing up there? Kip, I think you've got something you want to throw in there, man, haven't you?
Well, I was just going to say that when the Russian meteorite incident happened, I don't think people jumped on that enough, because there was like something severely wrong with that, as Freeman said. There didn't appear to strike the ground in any other way than somebody showed you a hole in a pond. But like, I remember just you talking about like sort of just the generalised weaponisation of space, and I'm pretty sure this is a speech before Obama got into power that you've used on one of your videos, Obama Alien Invasion, Freeman, and it's like a speech of him talking about. Now, and it goes to show the Orwellian nature of Obama's speech, and he goes on to say, like, I don't make promises I can't keep. I'm not sure whether that was before or after the Gitmo promise. And during the speech, he also blatantly says, I will not weaponize space. And then, as you're saying, he created the United States Space Force kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was when he was running for office, and I try to document all of this stuff because for some reason it doesn't get the attention I expect these things to get. And I think that if people are on top of this story, and so many conspiracy theorists have talked about Blue Beam, and it's been around in our genre since before the World Wide Web, that no one is jumping on these things because I don't know. There's the cult of celebrity with Barack Obama, and then no one really paying attention to other things that he's doing beyond Obamacare or the obvious stuff. To me, I thought that these would be huge issues. The two that I will not weaponize space, read my lips, right? And then immediately shuts down, the NASA. Of course, this has nothing to do with Obama. This is all, we act as if our presidents have some sort of power or something. They are just the presidents of the corporation that have to do what the board tells them to do, So, the shutting down of NASA, the rise of SpaceX, the privatization of space, and of course the weaponization of space. And, there could have been an immediate retaliation from us launching these weapons into space, like the X-37B, from Russia, because they had said to us, you start launching into space in a weaponized way, and we are gonna, join the Russia-China alliance and come and get you. And at the same time, like I say, China now has a weaponized space station up there, and, the whole thing's blowing up. And, there was one other piece of this puzzle I wanted to give you. Let me just recall. The other one that really baffled me, that shocked me, that no one seemed to notice, and maybe just people don't understand the importance of stem cells. But when Obama released the restriction of federal funding for stem cell research, this was the door opening to human cloning, and I thought I actually timed my release of Barack Obama cloning in the coming space war with that speech, because I thought it was going to be huge. I thought people are going to be flipping their lid, but it turns out,
Alrighty, welcome back to GUNN, Glasgow Underground News Network, live on truthfrequency.com. My name is Kip. You'll find me on YouTube under Kip1883, Freedom News Hub 2.0. As always, my co-host is Kev. You'll find his work over on YouTube under TruthTube451. Now, something different on the show. Usually we're doing current affairs and what's happening on the news, but tonight we've got an amazing guest in the way of Freeman. In my opinion, the Freeman from Freeman.tv. And Kev, you were going to hit on some, I think it was mind control or something, buddy, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Freeman likes to talk about synchronicities all the time. And just this past week or so, it seems to be every time I go to listen to a podcast, every time I go to check my news cycle, it's MK Ultra, Mind Control, Project Monarch. It seems to be that is almost time for that to come out in the universe right now. And I know Freeman's looked into this quite a lot, and I'd love Freeman to tell the listeners what he knows about mind control, MKUltra, and Project Monarch, because Project Monarch, you see a lot of the symbology used in Hollywood a lot of the time, and I think that's really relevant to today's world.
Kev, just before we hand over to Freeman, I forgot to mention earlier, just before, like, it's very relevant to your question. I was even saying to you before we went on, I went to see One Direction, the film about the music band, on Friday there. And I came away just by seeing a butterfly on, is it Harry Styles or something, the wee dude's name?
That's the one, yep. He's
now got
with symbology. He's
now got a big butterfly on his chest, and obviously that's in one of the most, if that film's to be believed, one of the most popular bands in the world ever.
And Kip, who was that band that you were into? Is it Sigur Rós or something? They've got the 8-minute video and it's blatantly Project Monarch.
Sigur Rós, it's like, I think it's Icelandic. I went to see them when they were in Glasgow.
I'm going to get the link and post it in the chat room for anyone that hasn't seen that, if you want to actually take Freeman into the realms of mind control for me, Kip.
Oh, well, that's get heavy Project Monarch symbology. And am I right in thinking that's the one with more than a few butterflies in it, Kev?
More than a few. They also have basically handlers coming in, programming them. Do you know what? I'll post this in the chat room. And Freeman, do you want to tell the listeners what you've found out about the Project Monarch and stuff like that?
I definitely have to admit that Jamie is my go-to gal for everything Hollywood mind control. She has been my pop culture expert for many years now. That people didn't realize she was in the background feeding me concepts about Katy Perry. You'll see me struggling on Alex Jones when I got into this topic with him, trying to remember her name. I couldn't even. I knew I'd been fed this data, but it wasn't hardwired yet. And, I'm talking about when she's programming, I Kissed a Girl, before we'd even gotten into many of the deeper programming that Katy Perry is now performing. And so Jamie put out a wonderful article and a new concept. So the article is Russell Brand and the Mark of the Beast on my website. But the concept is release the stars. And we really want to go forward and get these people to admit what's going on, which is probably an impossible task. But as you say, it seems the time is for it to come out. So Kathy O'Brien and Roseanne Barr are working very diligently at this, and they are working with Jamie and I, in the creation of this new TV show, in the ideas of bringing this out to the public, to giving an open door to others that want to come forward. So we have some clear indications. You have Corey Feldman coming forward, talking about pedophilia leading to the death of Corey Haim, and what they had to deal with in all of this situation. We have Chuck Barris of The Gong Show and The Newlywed Show coming forward with a fictionalized autobiography of how he is a contract killer for the CIA while taking the contestants from the Newlywed Show to their prize locations. He was there to go and kill someone. This is Chuck Barris from The Gong Show, right? And once you start to put all these puzzle pieces together, you start realizing that nearly every Hollywood actor or actress today is absolutely trained in at least 5 deadly martial arts. You start to believe that there is this Hollywood army. But it goes so much deeper than that, because you start to follow the breakdowns of the celebrities and how they get programmed and reprogrammed into the system. And of course, Britney was one that I followed for quite some time. So the Monarch program was actually titled such because of the anomaly that the German mind control scientists had noted in the monarch species of butterflies, in that it would take 3 generations of butterflies to get from their mating grounds to their birthing grounds and back. And this was an absolute curiosity to them, because how would the next generation know where to go? And it was in this vein that they started the Monarch programming, and especially studies in twins, to understand this genetic connection, what we call genetic memory, and understanding how this translated to the next soul, to the next being that was going to carry on in this genetic mechanism. So that was really the spark that brought about the Monarch program. How is it that we are linked in this way, and what does it mean? And so then this led to bloodlines. This led to the idea of the Aryan race and the ideas of, a separate race that's more superior than another, and the idea of that knowledge being transferred through your DNA.
Freeman, is that why you see a lot of these elite families being accused of inbreeding, to put it bluntly?
Yeah.
Are they basically trying to transfer genetic memory down the line?
And that's absolutely what the conclusion I have come to. Yeah, and transferred brain damage, Jamie says.
It's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you start to think about it, and when you couple this with the occult, which is one thing that I always do, because that's where these guys are at. Then you realize that there is intercommunication going on with interdimensional beings, and call them demons, call them angels, what you will. These people are using ritual, ceremonial magic to make communication and invoke or evoke entities into their souls, so that they can have this knowledge that is beyond our realms, right? And all of that is currently becoming technological. All the things that we discussed in our first hour about the technological advancements of communication with interdimensional beings, this was performed through ritual magic. And you can follow this through like the works of John Dee, who was the original 007, or the works of Aleister Crowley, and now the current rituals that we are being asked to be participants in at the VMA Awards and music awards and such, and through Hollywood and the movies, and not to mention the communication transmitted through books, because I follow Disney very heavily in all of this, because they are at the heart of this social engineering, and their concepts that are coming out in the Kane Chronicles, and Percy Jackson, these ideas of taking in these God forms into your soul. One, the Kane Chronicles, which outlines the battle with Apophis, which of course was the big asteroid that might destroy all life on planet Earth, and also the Satan of the Egyptian religion of the Aten. In the Kane Chronicles, the children are taught to invoke these Egyptian deities into their soul, and in doing so, teaching all children how to invoke these Egyptian deities into their souls. Whereas Percy Jackson is more of a bloodline scenario, where they're cast into their role because they are blood of the gods. So these are the type of things that they are programming into the children through the storybooks, through Disney. And these are also the concepts that are heavily played out within the rites and rituals of these secret organizations. The whole Eyes Wide Shut thing. That was an invocation ritual to bring goddesses into these forms, into these women, and then use them in sexual rituals. This is common for actors in the ancient past. This is what their purpose really was.
You absolutely preempted me there, Freeman. I was going to bring up Eyes Wide Shut, but you were mentioning people like John Dee and things like that. Now, what is it about Aleister Crowley and his particular brand of magic? Because it's quite relevant to me. I was brought up beside Loch Ness. Now, Crowley had one of his homes up there, Boleskine House. We actually recently went up and visited it, myself and my partner.
Get any creepy feelings?
Oh, absolutely, Freeman. My wee boy, he was with us, and at the time, he didn't pick up on any of it. But I think that's probably because he hasn't had the kind of conditioning that I had in my upbringing. Aleister Crowley was like the scary man that your mum used to scare you with when you were being a bad boy and things like that. But when we came back from the house, it was quite mental. He'd been stung by nettles, but the actual shape of the sting was in a C. And after you've just been at Crowley's house, it gets you thinking. But I'd love you to tell the listeners about Aleister Crowley, his brand of magic, and why it is so prevalent today in the Hollywood Illuminati scene.
Yeah, anything despicable. anything that was demoralizing. That was his form of magic. He actually put the letter K at the end of magic to denote it as this dark magic, because K, or 11, K is the 11th letter in almost every alphabet. 11 is the most accursed number, and this is why he put K at the end of magic. Now, one of Crowley's greatest attempts was there at the Loch Ness was to get through from, okay, so we have Kabbalism as the base form of their magical practice, and in this you have a tree of life, and basically what that is a map of the other dimensions, and you have to learn the aspects of each of the different 10 spots. Well, there's really one more that's hidden, the 11th spot, which is accursed and is numbered by that number 66, FF, and VV. The very same symbolism you saw Madonna showing at her 33-minute sermon at the Super Bowl. She showed this to us over and over again, along with the mark of the beast. And all of this relates to the abyss, which is a place called Da'ath, or the hidden spot. They call it excrement. It's the place where the people who died insane. It's the house of the demons and the place of the fallen angels. All the worst things you could think of. That's what the abyss is. And there is a path that goes through the abyss on the Tree of Life, which is signified by a G. Now that, perhaps, in my opinion, is actually the purpose of the G in the Freemasonic logo. It's this idea, because the G path is the straightest path, but also the most dangerous path from earth to heaven. And what happens is, if you take the long route, the serpent path, then you can bypass the abyss. But Crowley, he didn't do that. He wanted to go straight forward, and this happened at the Loch Ness place where they were eating feces and eating, drinking pee, like, Keisha. And so doing these trauma-based rituals then were taking themselves through the abyss, through the straight path of the G, which is also signified by the camel. And that makes me wonder about Camel cigarettes and the missing pyramid, but that's beyond. So the G path, and what it was said is that he opened all these portals into the abyss and then never went and magically closed them, so that all of this energy is still running around in that Loch Ness area. That's why I was asking you if you had felt it, because he was known for sloppy magic. I mean, the guy was a genius, right? But at the same time, he was sloppy, and he didn't care. He really didn't care at all. He would go on mountain trips and let his cohorts die in landslides and not raise a finger to help them, because that's the kind of person he was. But he was the one who set up the 20th century. He is the founder of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He is the founder of every musical or group that was in the British invasion. He's behind everything that's coming out today. And one of the things that really was underestimated by Crowley's thoughts was the idea of the industrial use of semen. And he said that this would revolutionize society. So he was way ahead of his time on this whole idea of stem cells and bringing about genetic mutations and things through the industrial use of semen. But at the same time, now we have Lady Gaga, who comes forward with her latest perfume brand, which has human semen in it, along with a blood, genetically crafted sample of Lady Gaga's blood in her perfume. So this is, the levels that it's come. You got Crowley in his back room at the Loch Ness with, feces-laden walls, doing these rituals to the abyss and the night watchtowers. And then you've got it just blatantly now straight in front of you on the Super Bowl with Madonna or with the blood rituals of Lady Gaga, who, it's just crazy, man. Well, and it all goes back to Crowley.
I'll need to send you some of the footage I've got, because there's actually a graveyard just across from his house, and there's a small outhouse there. And this building, obviously because of the notoriety of the place, is still used to this day as some kind of satanic ritual kind of site, because all the symbols that are up on the walls, they're all dated. They use some of Crowley's magic symbols. And when you're talking of Crowley, I mean, I was listening to an interview.
Let me just throw out there real quick that I want to clarify something, because everyone, even myself, uses the term Illuminati symbolism, and look at their Illuminati symbolism. And I use it because of search engines. I have to, you got to use the term that is popular so that people will come and look. But when we're discussing the idea of the eye in the pyramid and the eye on the, putting up the triangle to their forehead and such, this is the triangle of manifestation within these magical realms. This is the idea of bringing these entities. That's what the triangle is for. And when people say Illuminati symbolism, they're actually misrepresenting the whole system, and they need to look into the Ordo Templi Orientis, which was the cult of Crowley. And that's where the do what thou wilt and all of that comes in. So the OTO, the Order of the Eastern Templars, and this plays heavily into all the whole story of the Templars and everything else, are the people that you're looking for when you're looking at this symbolism, not Illuminati, not some Bavarian group started with, 5 people. This is the followers of this, magic with a K.
I don't know. I would like your comments and sort of my working theory and what I sort of think is happening, Freeman, with all the fronts that are presented to people as the problem, whether it be the Jews, the Zionists, the Muslims, the Christians, the Vatican, the Masons, the Jesuits, the New World Order, whatever, the Illuminati, stuff like that. What the one that isn't talked about is the Knights Templar as a single entity, and what all the other secret organisations have in common is a very similar doctrine, if not identical, maybe changed round the edges, it could be argued. So do you think maybe it could be argued that a lot of since Friday the 13th, the Knights Templar learned the lesson to exist in everything other than name, and everything since then has more or less been the same power structure that was in place with the Knights Templar, but a front, so it would be the Masons, then the and obviously branches and factions come from that, but deep down it still shares the mystery school doctrines that came from the Knights Templar.
Yeah. The biggest question is, what did the Templars find there at Solomon's Temple? And they brought about the concept of the Baphomet. Later, okay, so the Knights Templar we're talking about, prior to 1100 AD, right? So, so about, it was 1307 when they were finally destroyed by the Friday the 13th event. And I have done a show every October 13th, which is the infamous Friday the 13th. 10/13/1307 is the actual date, the reason that Friday the 13th is the most unlucky day. And every year I've done a 10/13 show. Every year there's been something. So I guess this is the closest I'm going to get to a 10/13 show this year, which is kind of sad. I've done one every year. Maybe I'll have to find one, yeah. And every year there's been something that has occurred. I went on Alex Jones and I wanted to prove myself. I had predicted 9/11 using the symbolism. I had said 9 and 11 are the most satanic numbers. They're going to use these numbers and they're going to cause a major catastrophe. Don't freak out. It's all for your reaction. And, I freaked everybody out by knowing this. How did you know? How did you know? They're all yelling at me. And I never really had a chance to prove myself on this way. And so on Alex Jones, I'm in studio with Alex Jones live with millions of people. So I'm going to prove myself. And Alex had told me not to make any predictions because I personally think he was looking out for me. He was trying to make sure I stayed credible or whatever, but he gave me a couple of rules to deal with before I went on the air, and I broke them all, and I don't think he'll ever have me back. But I did. I said, well, the next 9/11 will be 10/13, and this was based off of the Knights Templar, and the fact that the cornerstones of the White House were placed on 10/13, whereas the Pentagon and the Twin Towers cornerstones had been laid on 9/11. And I said, so 10/13 will be the next major event. And sure enough, that was the day Bernanke crashed the banking system and that whole thing went through, where I found that the day before on 10/12, he was completely opposed to this whole bank and bailout situation. But on 1013, he signed the documents. The headline in Austin, Texas read 1013 bigger than 9/11. And I'm the only one who noticed, right? And no one even noticed that I had predicted this, live on Alex Jones. I had finally done it. That was my goal, was to prove myself that this theory I have actually works. And, so the 1013 thing kind of played out. And I actually did a 1013 show with Clyde Lewis and Rex Diabolus Church of the Church of Satan, right? And at that moment, I'm covering all the events that occurred over time through, on 1013. At the moment of Bernanke signing that banking bailout, I'm with the high priest of the Church of Satan on Clyde Lewis's show, talking about it, right? Not knowing that this is going on. So, I tangented.
I was just going to say it does actually scare myself, Freeman, how accurate you do turn out. Because
Kip, it would be wrong if we didn't give Freeman the chance just now to throw out his theory of what might happen this 1013.
Well, it's gotten baffling for me, and we've gotten so overwhelmed in data. You got to realize how much easier it was to see things back then. Because the internet wasn't what it is now, and there wasn't all these different opinions, and most things came through scientific research. So now it's so diluted that it's really hard to say. But at the same time, okay, so we have this Knight Templar situation, and I'm actually personal friends with the commander of the Knights Templar here in Kansas, who's about to be the Grand Sovereign Commander of York Rite Freemasonry here in town. And he's broke. He's not anything. He's a young friend of mine that rose through the ranks of Freemasonry to the points of being in like a dozen different esoteric orders, including the commander of Knights Templar. So when Pope Benedict had been digging around saying he wanted to unroot the Illuminati, this was Pope Benedict's own words, and he wanted to sort this situation out, and he went digging into the Vatican Library. Now, as soon as he was finished, he shut that library down that had been open for 500 years. And this had freaked everybody out. All the cardinals, everybody was rushing to the Vatican Library to get the last bit of details they could from the books that they had been studying before they locked the whole system down. But before this happened, Pope Benedict then came across a 600-year-old misplaced document that exonerated the Knights Templar of all wrongdoing. Now realize that that the Knights Templar were accused of homosexuality, apostasy, banking fraud. They were the worst of the worst, and kissing each other on the anus and pissing on the cross and denying Christ, and they admitted to all of this in their tortures, right? And then they were supposedly, most of them, burnt at the stake for all of this on Friday the 13th, 1307. Of course, they gave them about a 4-year head start. They let the Templars run, and they seem to have run up to Scotland and Ireland and infiltrated the Freemasonic orders. And that actually is the story that you see in Braveheart as they come to join the Bruce, right? So the next thing you know, Pope Benedict comes forward and says, well, I found this document that exonerates the Knights Templars of all wrongdoing. And of course, the Knights Templar order came together and said, well, then give us back all our property, because this had all been passed off to the Hospitallers and on to the Jesuits, and all of the money. I mean, they were the richest organization in the world due to whatever they found at Solomon's Temple, and then discredited, disbanded, and then eventually ran out and burnt at the stake. Freemasonry still keeps them in honor, as they have a Boy Scout, in quotes, Freemasonic Boy Scouts, which are known as the Demolay, which Walt Disney was a member of, and so was Bill Clinton. And the Demolay are named after Jacques Demolay, who was the Grand Sovereign Commander of the Knights Templar. So absolutely this is carried on. And then, of course, as I was saying, Crowley with his Order of the Eastern Templar, which was another, level of this whole situation. If we could find out what the Templars found out, then we could learn so much about our ancient past. But now, all of a sudden, out of the blue, after Benedict exonerates the Knights Templar, seeking the hidden roots of the Illuminati, he then quits, right? I mean, who quits being Pope?
I'm Steve.
I'm Irene. I'm Lisa.
My name is Tom. I'm a
for us to voice our rage against the ones who've trapped us in a cage. Just steal from us the value of our wage.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to the last section of this week's GUNN, Glasgow Underground News Network. I'm Kev, I'm joined tonight by my co-host Kip, and we've also been joined by the magnificent Freeman. Before the break, Freeman was getting deep into his 10-13 prediction, and also the Knights Templar. And during the break, we were all discussing how, well, it was Kip brought up the fact that Freeman had mentioned the kissing of anuses by the Knights Templar, and that kind of led us into the whole Miley Cyrus and that video that everyone's talking about, Freeman. Now, I know you've broke it down in a video, but I'd love you to explain it all. What is really going on in that video by Miley Cyrus?
Oh, I was completely blown away by that. At first we were just into the cyborg teddy bear, at first it was just like, oh my God, this is just pedophilia coming out and the blatant, because the pedo bear is the current meme for pedophilia. And we know that this is at the heart of our elite rulers. The sacrifice of innocence. I mean, seriously, that is the pinnacle of the order.
Even links back into Crowley as well, doesn't it, Freeman? He wanted to expose children to all of that. And we've got politicians in this country.
He was very much linked to the aristocracy, if not...
Big time, Kip. I mean, you know as well, we've got Harriet Harman in this country. She was trying to actually legislate for incest and things like that. Very much in line with Crowley's kind of work.
Yeah, we are definitely in Crowley's prophesized age of Horus, the age of the crowned and conquering child, and all the symbolism from President Clinton's, or the entire Y2K celebration, to everything we're seeing on the VMAs now, is all in line with what Crowley had said would be the age of Horus. And we are absolutely there, even to the point of Miley and Lady Gaga dressing up as the Scarlet Woman and meeting the Queen. You'll see that each time that they go to meet with the Queen, they are dressed as the Scarlet Woman. This is the Whore of Babylon of Crowley's religion, of the OTO, and plays a role in this Miley Cyrus thing because the Scarlet Woman is part ISIS.
You still there?
Right. Kali is an appearance of the Scarlet Woman. She is one of the incarnations of the Scarlet Woman. Now, so we're not talking about the Hindu belief system of Kali, but the magical belief systems written inside of the Ordo Templi Orientis of the Whore of Babylon, and how they use the depiction of Kali in their ritual magic. So I don't want anybody to think I'm like just bashing Hinduism or something, because you will see nearly every goddess portrayed throughout time by our celebrities. But in this current one, Miley Cyrus comes out of that cyborg pedo bear, and she is of course wearing a teddy bear on her costume that has one eye closed and it's being licked by its own tongue, I think. And this type of symbolism is constantly used in satanic ritual abuse. And I have links to the article to show you what satanic ritual abuse survivors said, that they, the teddy bear programming and such. So you had all of this going on, but Miley kept sticking out her tongue, and she kept sticking out her tongue. And I noticed when she came out of that cyborg teddy bear that she was stroking imaginary hair. And you can see this videotape on my Miley Cyrus article so that you can see what I'm talking about. And I was like, oh my God, she's invoking Kali. And, I superimposed a picture of her face over Kali. And, it's a perfect depiction. I have a dozen images of her sticking out her tongue. You don't do this. I mean, this is not just like some show of exuberance. This was something that was written into the script, as everything was. As they had that big bootied lady standing there at the edge of the stage throwing candy out to the audience, she was standing there prepared for Miley to come and kiss her anus. right? Which was, of course, written into the witch rituals of the Salem witch trials, is written into the accusations against the Knights Templar, and is supposed to be the most debased form of anti-Christian beliefs that you can do, is to kiss the anus. And there she was. They set that woman on stage, made sure that her booty was there for Miley to get a hold of. And of course, she stuck out her tongue again, in this Kali fashion, and is portraying this whore of Babylon, because that is the role that is cast upon our celebrities. Britney tried to get out of this.
For me, the kissing of the anus was actually, or let's just put it, the kissing of the ass was more symbolic than the rest of it. I know the rest of it was very symbolic, but in the sense that the kissing of the ass, as you said, is very significant in lots of ways that you're well aware, Freeman. And I don't think anybody could say that you're being unfairly critical of Hinduism, because I think you agreed with me earlier on when we both said that the Catholic Church is satanic. So equal criticism all round, I think, can be
absolutely.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with actually criticising everybody when you're trying to put together the bigger collage, the bigger mosaic, and throughout time, I even think you touched on this earlier on. You were throughout time, organised religion, because I don't think there's anything wrong with religion. I think it's organised religion. Over time has always been corrupted and moulded to suit other needs, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah, we try to apply meaning to the words, and people are then told what the meanings are, and this has led people to believe that Lucifer is Satan. And one analytical study of the Bible will show you there is no link in the Bible to put Lucifer as Satan. Actually, the only time you're going to really find that connection is in poetry, such as Dante or Milton. So yeah, they've got this script that they can just keep using over and over and over again, and it's the meta programming, but the controllers write the inner programming that go along with it.
So how do we break out of all this, Freeman? I mean, we need to start looking at solutions. We've been going into all the problems of the day, laying a good kind of basis of what's going on, but how can people actually take action and kind of break out of the mind control and everything else set around about us?
Well, first of all, knowledge is key. And of course, with knowledge comes sorrow, because you start to go, oh my God, this world sucks. But you take in this knowledge, and that really helps you break away from the programming, because all of a sudden you're looking at everything and you're like, oh my God, this bitten apple on my Macintosh, isn't that Satan? Looking at your television and going, oh my God, this is all satanic programming. So you start to see it, and therefore it releases you from its effects. You're not caught up into the collective mind. But really what is happening is, because of the meta-programming, we are conditioned to look for an authority to come and rescue us. And they will always have something in the wings for you to follow, for you to fall to, for you to believe in. And this is a great error on our part, because the truth is that we, as a decentralized mindset, can accomplish so much more than if we start to unite under a single banner, or try to unite under our own forces and take head on what we can't possibly take head on. I mean, if you were to actually try to attempt to take down the military-industrial complex, you'd be like Gilgamesh running around trying to get yourself off the planet. It just isn't going to happen. They have, high technologies that just aren't going to do it. But it's our mindsets that are actually at fault, and the conditioning that we have been through, as from kindergarten through Hollywood. And so the problem that people are like, who are the good guys? Who are the good guys? And I consistently say, well, it's you. It's you that's listening to me now. You're the good guy, and it's your job to go out and make more friends, and to become closer and closer united with friends, and make groups of friends that will then make friends with other friends, and we can link in these ways. And so being true to my form and true to my word, I loaded me and my family up onto a big yellow school bus, and we toured around this United States on what we called the friendship agenda. Because the most common thing I hear is that I have no one to talk to about this stuff, and it drives me crazy. And people aren't realizing that they can get as weird as they think they can with their neighbor. They don't want to shame themselves by talking about crazy conspiracy theories. Well, so what happened for us is we took this school bus around, staying with stranger after stranger after stranger. I had never met any of these people we were living with, and they were all wonderful, great people. They all listened to my show, and I consider my listeners the best people in the friggin' planet, man. They're awesome. And I just attract those people, I guess. But so we went home to home to home and created friendship pockets wherever we went, because people would tell us, well, I don't have anybody to talk to. And I'm like, well, I know 16 people in your town that listen to my show. Let's bring us all together. And so we'd all gathered at some place, and they would all meet, and they're all still friends as we moved on. And what was really a trip, and speaking of religion, is these concepts of synchronicity, because that taught me there is God. When I go out on the road, I have walked out my door without a single thing in my pocket, without a vehicle, without anything, and I've been teleported around this entire, planet now, but, at times just around the United States, up into Canada, never knowing where I'm going or how I'm going to get there, always taken care of, always having these perfect coincidences that showed me the life was alive, that the universe was alive and working in my favor. And so if we could release ourselves and jump into that foolish nature, we can find our way out.
Freeman, if you want synchronicity and you're ever, I've seen the stuff that you've done in Texas and beyond on architecture and even bird's eye views of cities and so on and so forth. And Glasgow and Scotland as a whole, especially the Central Belt and other places, is steeped in Masonic symbolism, to say the least, Kev, I would suggest. But like the first stuff that I even came across you, Freeman, was you and your good missus when you were on a radio show and you were talking about. I don't think you termed it meta programming back then. I think you were calling it, was it the warrior and princess programming? Mm-hmm. And it's when you could go through the supermarket and the supermarket, you were literally just showing the Star Wars and then whatever pink programming was.
Yeah, we never got to finish that film. Actually, I had 2 computers crash and die in the making of the Hannah Montana.
Well, it was powerful enough to still stay with me to that day, because that's the first thing that I ever came across you, and it was the first ever. You were the first ever guy that pointed me in the direction of Chicken Little, which you always harp on, and I always parrot it, man. And it's a really important thing to go and look at. Hard to follow all the time, but it's a good thing to go and look at. To understand why you're getting so many different versions of the truth from so many different people.
Yeah, I mean, this type of programming is at the heart of the whole situation, and I'm shocked that parents don't think anything of it. The pink aisle and the blue aisle, and how this is programming the princess and therefore the warrior. Because you have to serve the military-industrial complex to be able to make enough money to buy her that blingy iPhone, The Hannah Montana film is on the Miley Cyrus article on FreemanTV.com. If you want to see, as we go through store after store after store, trying to find a Hannah Montana free zone. And we're talking about going to parts stores, auto parts stores, to hobby stores, to the point when we got to London and somebody greeted us there with Hannah Montana cupcakes. So we spanned actually 3 continents and still could not find a Hannah Montana free zone. And what we really wanted, one, is to show the Princess Warrior programming, the Star Wars Hannah Montana programming, which is, evolved. and Transformers and Cars, to Novi dolls and Monster High, and then also show you the idea of what these shows are programming. So the Hannah Montana programming is the idea that there is the elite, her, Hannah Montana, and then the lowly you, herself, again, as Miley Stewart. That, they're programming into the children very quickly the idea of this hierarchy, that there is the ultimate celebridom that you could be, and then there's also the lowly you. And that's what the Hannah Montana programming going on. Now when I watch like Disney's Tron, cartoon for children, I'm shocked. I mean, it's so dark. It is so, characters are sacrificing themselves bloodily left and right to rescue or save the renegade, which of course renegade is the name they had given to Barack Obama, which means one that turns on their own people, an apostate. Actually, everything that they accused the Knights Templar of is what they classified Barack as in his Secret Service title, renegade. And of course, Akhenaten was known as the Renegade Prince or Renegade Pharaoh, but Tron, the lead character, is known as Renegade. And anyone that helps Renegade gets slaughtered immediately in front of these children's eyes. And, you really, really got to start looking deeper into what is going on.
Absolutely amazing stuff, Freeman. The end of the show is creeping up on us, and at the start of the show, I told people to leave some questions in the chat room. One of the questions I've actually seen popping up there from Anthony, and it is, where are the Cabal with their plans now, in your opinion, Freeman? Where are they in their agenda?
Well, it appears that either there is some devastation coming our way through an extrasolar body, like Planet X, or even the potential of G.U.N.N. being a binary star in our system, which would cause serious havoc as it came in. This would explain the heating of all the planets and what's going on with that, and the strange area of space that we are entering. So perhaps they have knowledge of this coming catastrophe, and they are simply setting themselves up to survive it and then have immortality and be the gods on the other side. And in doing this, they of course have to establish the mindset necessary for you to follow their future meta-programming or future religion, or, even government structures. So, they're setting that mindset into those that hopefully will, survive, and then they can rule as the God forms from above. I think we're to that situation at this point, or it's all a big show. These fireballs and everything are coming in with technological means, the X-37B up there casting meteors down on planet Earth, making it look like the end of the world. Meanwhile, setting up an alien invasion. But in my world, aliens have been here all along, and most likely are at the heart of our civilization. When you see the leaps and advancements that we are coming to, and you can recognize these same leaps of and advancements represented in ancient depictions, then you start to, pull the pieces together of a galactic history and of the unwritten history of Atlantis, and how that plays such a heavy role in what is going on planet Earth, because the Nazis, they believe firmly in Atlantis. Zahi Hawass has been a major staunch opponent to Atlantis, but yet meets with the Atlantis group every year. And I think that all plays a very large role in what's coming. But it's such a mystery, it really is to me. I wish I had a future prediction for this year. I right before the Boston bombings, I was saying, well, next it'll be bombing in the streets of America. But unfortunately, I didn't write that into weird stuff. I thought, sometimes it's scary to put yourself out there with a prediction. But had I wrote articles about the Sandy Hook and the Aurora shootings, and at the end of them, I was going to say next is bombing in the streets of America. And had I written that, I would have actually predicted that whole scenario. But that's what I see as the coming chaos. And that's why I really spread the friendship agenda so strongly, because when you feel united with your friends, when you feel like you've got a core group that you know you can trust, then you feel secure. And security is the one solution to trauma-based mind control. And honestly, that's what the whole picture is a trauma-based mind control event. So I do see an economic collapse. I wonder what's going to happen with this Jesuit Pope, because with the exoneration of the Knights Templar and bringing in a Jesuit Pope, meanwhile they're, contacting ET for baptisms, it's all going to get very strange, very, very strange, and much harder to predict than simple political shenanigans.
Well, Freeman, you just mentioned Atlantis rising out to sea there. I've been doing videos about the island that rose out to sea off Pakistan. And just quickly, there's a question from the chat room. I think Kip's got one as well. What about Comet Ison, man? Is this going to be another Elenin? Is this going to be basically a damp squib? Is it going to fly by and it's just a whole heap of hype to distract us from something else? Just quickly, and then I'll fire over to Kip.
Okay, I do believe people just, freak out about comments, and I was watching the whole Hale-Bopp scenario back in the day, and the craft that was supposed to be following it, and the Heaven's Gate cult, and then I watched the String of Pearls as they were supposed to destroy life on Earth on 5/5/2000 and ended up crashing into Jupiter. So I've been through so many of these end of the world scenarios that it's hard for me to believe in any of them. Now we have Saoirse Fall coming forward saying that Comet Ison made a corrective turn, as if it was intelligently controlled towards Phobos. And we do have a lot going on with Phobos right now, and it's really strange. And we've got so much going on in space. There was the current moon launch that's going on. That's bizarre to me. Why when we're in such turmoil, are we going to investigate luminous dust on the moon? I think that they're trying to understand, the powers that they're against, that are coming. And I think that maybe there are bases on the moon and extraterrestrials on Phobos. This is not outside of the realms, because, we have 14-mile long craft that have been photographed by Russian satellites after going to Phobos. We have the Columbia Space Shuttle event and the extraterrestrials there. And I have so many contacts with people inside of NATO, strangest connections I get. And, the idea that they are here and there's nothing we can do about it has been a consistent story that I've been hearing. I've got my dad who chased flying saucers as well, who told me, yeah, flying saucers are real, and then died, never letting me know anymore. I think that this is going to get so bizarre, but at the same time, we're going to have what we need. We're going to have the understanding we need when it occurs to sort it out, as long as people feel that they are secure and have their friends and don't panic,
I think if anybody looks at the facts about the moon, the facts speak for themselves. It's a bizarre object when you take everything else in the solar system and beyond into consideration. But we're just wrapping up, Freeman, and I wonder if you could do me the pleasure of answering a question from the Kev will know him as the Info Gimp, Scottish Freeman, aka JP. You got a question for Freeman?
The other Freeman. I've recently just started reading the Lost Book of Enki, the Zechariah Sitchin writing. And, from what you say, I just wanted to ask your opinion on, how accurate that is. And, do you think that those tablets, really say that?
I followed Sitchin from the mid-'90s or late '90s and read almost everything he had written. I haven't read the Lost Book of Enki or the other one. They're both sitting there on my shelf, though, waiting for me. I was completely intrigued and enthralled by what he had showed us, because Sitchin has been, deplayed. I mean, I don't want to use the word debunked, because I don't believe so. This cuneiform script is amazing and just incredible. I have so much video of it that we're going to play a lot of this into the new television show, because I've been filming all of the Sumerian artifacts, and I find them all the places, at the Rosicrucian Shrine to Akhenaten. I find them, throughout all these different secret societies that we have been going to. And when you look at what he's showing you with how the the wedges are formed in the clay, I mean, it looks like a rocket. I mean, you know, and you look at the word Shem and it looks like a rocket. So I find it a very credible explanation of what occurred in the ancient past. I think it explains very well why the Egyptian pyramids are so plain and why the South American pyramids are so ornate. Because Enki was such an artist and he was such a lover of humanity, whereas Enlil was this rigid, staunch authoritarian that didn't care about art. He just, you know, get it done, make it what it's supposed to be, functional, you know. And I think that these two stories play out with the reptilians and the merfolk, you know, the combination of David Icke and my work on these two species, and the ideas that I'm seeing as you look at the artwork on the background of my website. I have the Doors to Manly P. Hall's library, which shows a fish man and a reptilian, and these playing out as logic and emotion. I do believe that there is some legitimacy to this, because there's things in our ancient past that cannot be done today. Baalbek, Lebanon, the creation of the pyramids, things of this nature.
Can I absolutely rudely interrupt even and say
Yes.
we're almost running out of time, so we better say our bye-byes for everybody. I think, Kev, are we running out of time, my friend?
We've got 45 seconds. Freeman, absolutely fantastic. I hope the listeners have enjoyed this half as much as myself and Chip.
Go
We
and check
selfishly
it
have
in
been...
Freeman.tv.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe
FreemanTV.com.
we'll be on with Chris Everard straight after the break.
Jamie is actually scheduled to be with Chris in 5 minutes.
Excellent. I hope sometime we can get Jamie on the show to get some of our information on the Hollywood stuff and the mind control. But Freeman, again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking us on a journey from, well, absolutely every angle and every conspiracy that people can think of.
So, you want the news and information without the hate, the hype, the fear? Well, you've come to the right place. You can support Truth Frequency Radio by spreading the word on social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, or your favorite forums. Want to take Truth Frequency Radio on the road? Listen on your iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, or other mobile devices. Want more than just the free stuff? Sign up for a VIP membership for as little as $4 a month and get super high-quality downloads, member-only content, and instant access to your favorite shows without the wait. It's only through your loving support that we're able to cover the cost and continue broadcasting. So now, stay tuned for more Free Speech Radio, right here on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. KTFRN, worldwide.